Our tale, a tale let it be told. On Sankofa Crescent, where balconies practice gossip and cooking pots argue in friendly steam, a landlord climbed a paint-peeled ladder and nailed a tin sign above the compound gate. It glittered like bad manners in sunlight. No kids, no noise. A lizard did push-ups beneath it as if saluting. A little boy named Kwesi sounded the letters out, the way teeth learn corn, and asked his mother, "Does my laugh count as noise?" His mother pressed his head to her waist so he could not see her face burn. The landlord, Mr. Dankwa, dusted his hands as if justice were powder. New rules, he declared, voice trimmed by scissors that had never cut cloth for a child. This is a quiet residence. Children bring trouble. Noise brings police. Police bring paperwork. Paperwork brings me grief. From the kiosk by the gate, a dented hubcap nailed as a makeshift bell coughed once, the way old gavels cough before they grow robes. Watch the sign. Watch the faces. Watch what law will say to habit. The city had recently opened a small room in the courthouse called the Home and Human Dignity Desk, H2D2. A corner with 2 chairs, a jug of water, and a clerk who knew that leases are not only paper, but promises. On market days, a volunteer lawyer sat there with a pen that writes more listening than ink. They tested the new 8 courtesies of tenancy printed on an orange card. Greet and name. Show the lease. State house rules. Hear needs. Reasonable adjustments. Receipts and repairs. Complaints. Box. Release without humiliation. On Sankofa Crescent, a seamstress named Naifua kept the card in her sewing basket beside Thread the Color of Courage. She was a widow with twins whose laughter had the energy of new brooms. When the landlord raised his sign, she felt the card grow heavier. Today, the tin would meet paper, and the paper would grow teeth. If this tale sits on your steps, let it find other steps too. Like to keep the hubcap drum loud, share with anyone who has been told their life is noise, and comment with your city plus current time so the next part knows where and when to knock. The tin sign, the orange card, and a compound that learned to count ears listener, bring your calabash of attention. We will pour slow. Sankofa Crescent is the kind of compound that does not fit into pictures, but fits into rememberings. 6 flats facing a yard of uneven cement, a mango tree that drops counsel with fruit, and a line of basins that gossip at dawn. Children draw goalposts with charcoal. Aunties draw borders with words. On good days, the borders move like curtains. On bad days, they behave like walls. Mr. Kwaku Dankwa inherited the house the way some people inherit a stubborn forehead, without asking and with all the responsibilities. He is not a villain by hobby. He is a tired man who thinks tiredness is a constitution. He loves the idea of quiet more than the work of order. When the neighbor across the lane sold him a no kids, no noise sign at a discount, imported Dubai tin, he thought he had bought peace. The tenants looked up from their mornings and read the sign. Some swallowed, some swore under their breath the way one prays when the gods are busy. Na Efua read it, then folded laundry with the discipline of a soldier who refuses to panic during trumpet practice. Her twins, Kwesi and Aqua, asked whether games would now be illegal. She kissed their foreheads so the law would smell cocoa butter and think twice. At dusk, the compound gathered the way oil gathers at the top of soup, naturally shining with concern. Uncle Mensima, who sells phone credit and knows everybody's story the way a fisherman knows currents, stood by the hubcap bell. "Shall we ring?" he asked. "Or shall we visit the landlord like civilized neighbors?" "Ring first," said Auntie Yar, whose broom has settled more arguments than judges. "The bell is a heartbeat. Let us let it cough twice." The hubcap coughed twice. Mr. Dankwa appeared on the balcony with keys like a small xylophone at his belt. "What?" he demanded, because some people greet with questions and do not know it is rudeness in a uniform. "Greet and name," thought Na Efua, touching the orange card in her pocket. She smiled up. "Good evening, Mr. Dankwa. I am Na Efua, flat C2. We wish to understand the new sign." "Understand?" He laughed the short, hard laugh of men who think clarity is a threat. "It says what it says, no kids, no noise. This is not a creche. I am done with broken bulbs, chalk on walls and football at 5 p.m. when my nap is in a meeting with destiny." "Ah," said old Korko, who waters the mango tree as if it were her late husband's moods. So you have banned childhood and evening. The yard chuckled. Humour wears sandals to serious meetings. Children are tenants too, said Siloam, a taxi driver whose voice believes in receipts. They pay through us, in bowls washed, in errands run, in the prayers their grandmothers bribed the sky with. The law also pays attention. The law will pay me when noise breaks my peace, countered the landlord. I am in charge. It is my house. It is our home, said Naefua, softly but not small. We signed leases, not silences. May we share something? She lifted the orange card like a lantern. These are the 8 courtesies of tenancy recommended by the court's Home and Human Dignity desk. We ask you to walk them with us. Greet and name you have. Show the lease. Let us see where it says no children. It says no nuisance, he replied, tapping a clause like a man tapping a lizard to see if it will run. Children are famous nuisances. The clause speaks of excessive disturbance, Siloam read aloud from his own copy, words rolling like tires over potholes. Not about status. A radio can be a nuisance. A prayer meeting can be a nuisance. A grown man who slams his gate like a judge can be one. But a child is a person, not a disturbance until proven otherwise. Here needs, said Naefua, keeping her voice at a temperature that cooks but does not scald. Our children need play. We need rest. You need order and clean walls. Let us adjust reasonably. Mark the yard so ball play stops before windows. Quiet hours after 9 p.m., yes. Chalkboard mounted on the back wall so chalk meets permission, not paint. Mr. Dankwa frowned at the elegance of sense. And when they scream, then we parent, said Auntie Ya, holding up her broom like a certificate. And when adults play radio like it is campaign season, you landlord. Laughter paid the rent of tension. Even the landlord's mouth tried a smile but couldn't finish. Receipts and repairs, added Uncle Mensima. We pay on time, you fix on time. The hallway bulb has been fasting from light for 3 months. Complaints box, said old Korkor, pointing at an empty paint bucket. Let us hang a box under the hubcap. Small problems can walk in before they grow legs. Release without humiliation, Na finished, eyes meeting the landlord's. If someone must leave, you give notice that counts days properly. You do not shout at their bowls or lock their rooms while their bread is still rising. He looked at the card as if it were a polite mutiny. Who wrote these? Some NGO with grant money and chalk. The court likes them, said a new voice. Amma and Tim, the volunteer lawyer, had slipped in the gate with a folder and a tired smile. She lives 2 lanes away but keeps half her hearing in other people's compounds. I sit at H2D2 on Thursdays. The law forbids family status discrimination. No kids in a rental is a red cloth waved in front of a bull called fine. The landlord bristled. Who invited lawyers into my yard? Your sign, said the hubcap quietly, with the help of Uncle Mensima's spoon. The yard laughed. The landlord did not. Remove the sign, Amma said, her smile still there because smiles are clever soldiers. Let us draft house rules that survive a judge. If you refuse, I will help them file. This is my card. He snatched the card, scanned it, and stuffed it in his pocket like a suspicion. House meeting tomorrow, he declared. 6 in the evening. Bring your demands. Bring your children so we can measure their noise. Bring your lease, said Na. And bring a pen that knows how to say sorry when it must. That night the compound hummed like a sewing machine, fixing an old garment into something wearable. The twins practiced quiet games under their mother's gaze. Adults practiced reasonable voices under their own. The mango tree dropped a leaf that looked exactly like a verdict. In the morning the sign still hung, but the sun had made it less proud. Children passed under it to school. Each pair of feet scratched a small line of resistance into the dust. Kwesi whispered to Akua, If we laugh softly, does it still count as loud joy? Akua, who negotiates with the world by offering it drawings, said, Let us draw permission on the back wall and call it play. At 6, the yard filled with stools, rules, and heartbeat. The landlord arrived in an ironed shirt that could not discipline his impatience. He placed a file on a plastic table. The tenants placed the orange card beside it, like a compass that thinks of human weather. House rules drafting, announced Amma, who had come as a neighbor until law was needed. We will use call and response. We call a rule. The yard responds with sense. Rule 1. said the landlord. No children in the compound after 4 p.m. Response, said the yard. Children live here all the hours. Replace with play hours from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the marked zone. No ball against walls. No loud devices after 9 p.m. Rule 2. No noise. Response. Define noise. Singing and laughter are life. Noise is amplified sound above reasonable level during rest hours. We can agree those as 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sundays add 2 to 4 p.m. for naps. Rule 3. No chalk on walls. Response. Build a chalkboard on the back wall. We will enforce chalk's immigration policy. Rule 4. No visitors after 7 p.m. Response. Visitors must register on the sheet by the gate. After 10 p.m. they leave unless listed as overnight in lease. The landlord's jaw performed push-ups. He proposed, the yard disposed, Amma translated into legal. The hubcap coughed encouragement when egos tried to overtalk. At last the draft looked like a marriage between order and living. Then came the clause that tried to undo the work. Landlord reserves the right to terminate tenancy for any reason with immediate effect. Amma tapped it with her pen as a teacher, taps the knuckles of a favorite child lying to see what happens. Strike any, she said. Write lawful. Strike immediate. Write with proper notice. Add no lockouts and no seizure of property. Add complaint route to H2D2. Why should I carry lawyers on my head like a basin? The landlord grumbled. Because you carry tenants in your pocket like coins, said old Korkor, and they are people, not change. The yard murmured its agreement like rain beginning truthfully. Resentment tightened the landlord's face into economy. We are done, he announced, signing the bottom with a flourish that looked like a mosquito bite. He did not take down the "No kids, no noise" sign. He did not apologize. He left with his file and his keys, which made more music than his manners. For 2 weeks, Peace tried to learn the compound's language. Children played in the zone. Adults lowered radios after 9. The chalkboard gathered math and hope. But one night, a cousin's birthday spilled into 9:30 by 6 minutes and a half. Quasi laughed as if the moon had just told a joke. Aqua clapped as if she were paying a debt. The landlord stormed in like thunder auditioning for riot. Pack your things, he roared at C2. You are out. Now, I warned you. My sign warned you. He turned the key in their lock while bread rose on their table and soup rehearsed steam. He turned the key on childhood and called it order. The hubcap coughed in protest. Amma heard from 2 lanes away because law sometimes lives in ankles and runs when called. She arrived with H2D2 forms, breath like a sermon short on time. This is illegal, she said, voice even as rice. Self-help lockout violates Section 12 of the Tenancy Fairness Code. Return the key. We will meet at H2D2 tomorrow. Bring your lease and your ability to say sorry. I will bring police, he said. Bring dignity instead, she answered. It costs less. The next morning, under a poster of the 8 courtesies, with a jug of water witnessing gently, the Home and Human Dignity desk received its most stubborn case. The clerk, Kojo Mensah, a man whose patience wears running shoes, stamped a file with the hospitality of a market woman. Amma presented photos of the sign, copy of the lease, the new rules draft, statements from Selom, Old Korkor, Auntie Ya, and a recording of the hubcap coughing more eloquently than some ministers. The landlord arrived with his keys like medals and his pride like a child who refuses school. I will not apologize for protecting my property, he said. Children are noise. Noise is damage. Damage is debt. The clerk raised a palm. Here we count ears before keys. The law says family is not nuisance. The law says notice is not shouting. The law says leases cannot beat children. He scheduled a mediation and, failing that, a summary hearing the following week with a magistrate who treats words like measuring cups. When the parties left, the hubcap at Sankofa coughed again, this time with a little dance because Story had found a rhythm. The twins ate bread warm, not because the landlord had returned the key, he had not, but because the compound had returned care. Selom broke the lock gently, leaving a note that said, Emergency re-entry for breathing. Police told. Law following. He fixed the lock afterward and kept the old one as a souvenir of foolishness. In the days before court, the yard practiced truth. They wrote down decibels of life. A baby crying at 3 a.m., old Korkor's radio at 6:45, Auntie Yar's broom at 7, the landlord's gate at 8, the twins at 4:30, the football at 5, prayers at 5:30, laughter at always. They drew charts like fishermen draw coastlines. They were ready to explain their lives to a stranger and to remind a landlord that home is a choir, not a solo. A tale, let it be told. The desk that drank water, the judge who counted ears, and the lease that learned to listen courts are not always theatres of thunder. Sometimes they are kitchens where order is cooked with evidence, and patience is the only spice that cannot be substituted. The Home and Human Dignity desk moved the case to Magistrate Aquele's small courtroom, a room that smelled of wood, paper, and people trying to be reasonable in front of strangers. On the wall behind the bench hung a framed copy of the 8 Courtesies of Tenancy. Beside it, a photograph of the city's listening bench, the one installed at each station lobby after another folktale insisted. A jug of water sat on the clerk's table, rings already forming beneath it like halos that don't argue about theology. Case 47, H2D2 versus Danqua, called the clerk. Alleged unlawful lockout, discriminatory signage, failure to adopt reasonable house rules. Magistrate Aquele entered, a woman whose robe looked like a decision already ironed. She glanced at both sides with the compassion of a midwife and the skepticism of a mechanic. "We will hear before we instruct," she said, tapping her pen, which the city believes is a wand. "Counsel." Aman Team stood. Her gown had known rain and still refused to look tired. "My lady, Exhibit A, photograph of the sign, 'No kids, no noise,' over the entrance. Exhibit B, the lease. No clause banning children, only standard no excessive disturbance. Exhibit C, house rules draft agreed in principle with dispute over termination clause. Exhibit D, landlord's text, pack your things, you are out now. Exhibit E, witness statements. F, audio of hubcap bell on the night of the attempted lockout. Objection to hubcap, huffed the landlord's representative, a cousin with a suit one size braver than his arguments. It is metal. Laughter walked the benches like a cat. Overruled, said the magistrate, smiling despite syllabus. Metal sometimes speaks the truth. Defense? She nodded. Your Honor, the cousin began, clearing loyalty from his throat. My client is a law-abiding man. Children play ball, ball hits windows. Landlords pay glaziers, glaziers send bills. Bills do not pay themselves with laughter. The sign was a warning, not a law. So you hung a warning that violates law, Aquele summarized kindly. Continue. He sought order. He proposed rules. He is old. Age does not defeat statute, the judge said, retrieving Section 12 of the Tenancy Fairness Code from the shelf of her memory and placing it gently on the table of the day. We will not punish tiredness. We will also not promote it into policy. Amma called witnesses. Na-Efua spoke with the humility of a well-pressed cloth. She did not weep because law feeds on clarity more than on tears. We asked for play hours, for a chalkboard, for quiet after 9. We agreed to register visitors. We wrote a complaints box. The sign remained above our heads like a threat that was learning to read. Salom testified with taxi driver eloquence. Noise is a driver too, Your Honor. If you don't hold the steering at the right time, it will carry you into the gutter. We held the steering. The landlord wanted to turn off the engine. Old Korkor told the court that mangoes drop louder than Queasy laughs. Auntie Yar demonstrated the quiet sweep and the loud sweep. The court learned the difference between joy and disturbance, a difference that dictionaries cannot teach but neighborhoods know. Amma played the hubcap audio, the cough of the bell, the rumble of the landlord's key in the lock, the murmur of neighbors choosing de-escalation over drama. The judge sipped water. The jug sighed. Legal rooms are thirsty. Finally, Mr. Danqua took the stand. Pride attended him in a bright tie. I inherited trouble, he said. Tenants who think rent is license. Children who think walls are paper. Women who think law is a broom for men. Quiet is not violence, I asked nicely. They answered with cards. Cards printed by the court, said Amma. Cards printed by people who don't have to wash chalk from paint, he said. Judge Aqueli leaned forward. Mr. Dankwa, what is noise to you? Unpredictable joy, he said, before caution could edit him. The courtroom swallowed the sentence the way a drum swallows a hand and returns it as rhythm. Do you like children? She asked. I like children that belong to others and visit on Sundays, he said. The courtroom hummed. Honesty is sometimes uglier than lies. It is still useful. Do you know what notice is? She continued. He rolled his eyes the way men roll them when they intend to miss an exam. I know waiting. I have waited for rent longer than gospel. And you think the cure for long waiting is a short temper, she said. We will teach you a different medicine. She turned to the wall to the 8 courtesies, read them as if they were scripture, and then did what courts do when they are not scared of work. Findings, she said. 1. The sign "No Kids, No Noise" is discriminatory under Section 9(1), Family Status. It is void on arrival and must be removed. 2. The lockout violated Section 12, No Self-Help Eviction. 3. Parties had begun reasonable house rules. The only dispute is the unlawful termination clause. 4. The court embraces the draft with modifications into an order called the Sankofa House Charter. She wrote as she spoke. Words hammered themselves into lines. Sankofa House Charter. Order of Court. Play zone and hours. Children may play in the marked zone 6:30 p.m. No ball against walls. No amplified devices after 9 p.m. Quiet hours. Compound. Quiet hours. 9 p.m. 6 a.m. Sundays additional. 2 4 p.m. Courtesy quiet. Chalkboard. Landlord to install a chalkboard on back wall within 7 days. Tenants ensure chalk stays there. Repairs and receipts. Landlord to attend to repairs within 72 hours for urgent, 14 days for routine. Tenants to receive written receipts for rent. Complaints box. Install box at hubcap, review weekly with a tenant representative, rotating. Termination and eviction. Only for lawful reasons with written notice per statute. No lockouts, no seizure of property. Training. Landlord to attend a half-day tenancy courtesies workshop at H2D2 within 30 days. Apology. Landlord to issue a public apology to tenants, to be read aloud in the compound and posted at the gate for 30 days. Apology to use the words, I am sorry, discrimination, and we will do better. Monitoring. H2D2 to conduct a site visit in 60 days. Non-compliance carries a fine and an order to fund a children's quiet library for the compound. Because quiet is a skill, not a ban, the judge added, and apology is a repair, not a humiliation. The cousin stammered an objection that tripped on its own shoes, overruled. The clerk wrote as if the pen were a spade and the page a garden. Then the judge did the thing good judges do when law meets living. She asked each tenant to promise something. You, she pointed to Selom, will you respect quiet hours? He promised, hand on steering wheel in his mind. You, to Auntie Ya, will you sweep early or late, not during rest? She promised, broom at parade rest. You, to old Korkor, will you lower your radio when the mango tells you to? She laughed and promised. And you, Na Efua, will you keep your twins' joy gentle during quiet? Na nodded, eyes bright as rainy season. Finally, you, Mr. Dankwa, will you take down the sign, read the apology yourself, and learn to measure noise by reason, not fear? He paused. Pride argued that apologies shrink men. Sense argued that apologies fit them to their communities. Tiredness advocated for shortcuts. The judge waited, face like a mother who knows the answer, but will not tell it for you. I will, he said at last, each word costing a habit. Good, said Aquele, because the court can order money, but the hubcap will measure manners. Court rose. In the corridor, people hugged with the relief reserved for storms that finally spend their thunder. Amar handed over the typed order. The twins tugged their mother's dress. Will he say sorry with his mouth? Asked Kwesi. With his mouth, said Amar, and with his hands by hanging the chalkboard. They returned to the compound as if bringing back a festival that had been postponed by arrogance. Selom measured the back wall for the chalkboard. Auntie Ya drew a rectangle with string and conviction. Old Korkor set a stool beneath the hubcap for smaller hands to reach the complaints box once it arrived. Na boiled groundnuts and passed them around. Victory is hungry work. But the story would not be an instructive tale if it ended in a straight line. Compliance came tangled. The landlord removed the sign, yes, but with the delicacy of a man pulling a thorn he intends to keep in his pocket. He ordered a chalkboard that arrived late and warped. He drafted an apology that used every synonym for regret except sorry. He scheduled the apology for a weekday afternoon when most tenants were at work, an empty theatre for a reluctant actor. The hubcap coughed in disgust. Amma returned with the order and a pencil for editing. Clause 8 says read aloud to tenants. Choose Saturday evening. Use the words as ordered. He tried to bargain. Pride asked for discount. The order declined. Saturday arrived with stew perfume and thunder rehearsing somewhere inland. The compound gathered. The apology sat in Mr. Dankwa's hand like a hot yam. He looked at it as if it had written itself in his sleep. And perhaps it had. Conscience drafts when men pretend not to notice. Before you read, said Amma, ask the yard for permission to speak. Courtesy is the hinge, apologies are the door. He nodded, awkward, human. Good evening, he began. Please may I speak? Speak, said the yard, voices braided. I am sorry, he read, the two words feeling like stones and like water at the same time. I am sorry for hanging a sign that discriminated against children and made your home feel like a place that does not like living. I am sorry for the lockout. I did not follow the law or the courtesies. We have a new Sankofa house charter. I will do better. His voice thinned. We will do better. We, echoed the yard, because shared responsibility is culture's oldest instrument. Then, because apology without repair is a plate without food. He pointed to the new chalkboard hung properly, to the complaints box under the hubcap, to the repair ledger pasted by the stair. He held up the training certificate from H2D2 like a report card a man dares to bring home at last. Silence settled, generative not punitive. Aqua stepped forward with chalk and drew a flower, petals open, stems straight. Kwesi wrote quiet hours in letters that learned their manners. Old Korkor placed the tin sign at the base of the mango as a reminder of what not to hang above people. The apology, like rain at the right hour, did not flood, it soaked. But the court's order had one more clause to ripen, monitoring. 60 days later, H2D2 returned with clipboards, eyes patient, ears brave. They found the chalkboard full of math and names, and a neat corner labelled Poems for the Mango. They found repair tickets solved on time, receipts layered like laminated trust. They found the complaints box holding small quarrels that had not grown tusks. Radio too loud on Wednesday. Ball hit Auntie's basin. Boy apologized. Landlord gate slam at 8 a.m., now doing it softer. They found the apology still posted, its corners curled like a page that has been read. They also found a woman with a new baby sleeping at noon, while the compound practiced quiet like a religion that is not jealous. The hubcap coughed once. Approval. And in his ledger, Mr. Dankwa had written a line he did not plan to show anyone. It is easier to manage rules than to manage resentment. I choose rules. A tale. Let it be told. The apology drum, the charter feast, and the noise that became music. A story is not finished until the village has found a way to sing it. Sankofa Crescent decided to sing. They called it the charter feast, part celebration, part orientation for new tenants, part medicine for old habits. They cooked foods that understand forgiveness, light soup that clears throats, waki that lets differences sit together in one leaf, kelewel that sweetens tongues used to shouting. The hubcap, once merely a bell, was polished and rehung with a ribbon. Children called it the apology drum. When quarrels rose above sense, someone tapped it gently, and both sides were required to repeat the 8 courtesies out loud before continuing. It is difficult to maintain rage while reciting greet and name in front of grandmothers. Amma arrived with a small banner for the gate, home, where quiet is agreed, not imposed. She brought a stack of orange cards for pockets and fridges, a cartoon version for children that turned courtesies into superheroes. Captain Greet, Lady Lease, Reasonable Adjuster, Receipt Ranger, Repair Rapper, Boxy the Complaints Robot, and Release Lion, who who roars only when the law says time. Mr. Dankwa came early, awkward hands full of bulbs and hooks. He replaced the hallway light without being asked. He fixed a loose hinge on the gate that had clanged like bad grammar. He asked Na if the twins had a favorite place to draw. She pointed to the chalkboard. He said, "May I hang a frame for their drawings?" She nodded, surprised at how apology keeps giving birth if fed. Before the feast, the yard held a short forum called Noise versus Music. Selom moderated with the skill of a man who knows when to honk and when to let the road speak. Noise, he began, is sound that forgets neighbors. Music is sound that remembers them. They listed, babies are noise only when adults refuse to help. Radios are noise when they compete with birds. Laughter is always music, unless it is pointing at someone who didn't request to be a joke. Old Korkor contributed a proverb. If a child's footsteps are forbidden, the ancestors will visit you with crutches. The yard cheered. Even the landlord smiled like a man learning new arithmetic. Then came the reading of the Sankofa House Charter, not as punishment, as liturgy. Each clause was read by a different voice. Aqua read the play zone because she had the handwriting to match. Kwesi read quiet hours like one who intends to defend them. Auntie Ya read repairs and receipts with the authority of a broom in uniform. Selom read complaints box with taxi dispatch cadence. Mr. Dankwa read apology again, softer this time, not as a requirement, but as a promise renewed. After each clause, the hubcap received a tap. The mango tree seemed to applaud with leaves. The chalkboard, now framed, held a new heading, Visitors' Names, We Are Happy to Hear. On it were the signatures of H2D2 staff who had come to eat plantain and observe democracy in slippers. At the listening bench, a wooden seat installed in the yard under the mango, two stubborn neighbors settled a long-running fight about buckets. The bench requires each person to retell the other's grievance until the other says, "Yes, that's what I meant." It took 10 minutes and 2 sighs. They left with a schedule and a joke. The bench kept their backs honest, while the hubcap kept their voices from flying away. The twins organized a children's parliament to advise adults about play design. They proposed hopscotch squares painted with numbers that teach math, while knees learn diplomacy. A ball rack that lives at the far wall. A sign that reads, "If you play, you put away." They promised to tap the hubcap on themselves if their joy overspilled into someone's nap. When the sun slid from afternoon to evening like a coin from palm to palm, the municipal housing liaison arrived uninvited but welcome, carrying a roll of posters. Family status is not a nuisance. She asked to speak for 2 minutes. The yard gave her 5. She praised the charter, pointed to the order as a model. She announced a pilot. Every compound receiving a complaint at H2D2 would be offered a charter kit, chalkboard, complaints box, orange cards, and a template apology for landlords who cannot find the right words without a map. The audience clapped the way people clap when bureaucracy changes shape into something that can hold water. Then came the part that stories remember. A new tenant, Ibo, arrived with his wife Mami Sawa and a baby who had not yet chosen a schedule. They stood at the gate, hesitating under the memory of the tin sign. Na went to them, card in hand. "Welcome," she said. "Here we greet and name first. I am Na Ifua. This is Sankofa House. Your child is already included in the rent." The baby chose that moment to display lungs. The hubcap did not cough. It laughed. After food, Amma proposed a ritual. "Let us retire the tin sign." They brought it from where it had leaned against shame all these weeks. The judge's order had not said what to do with it after removal. The yard decided it should not disappear. It should teach. Aqua painted over the words with bright colors and wrote, "Here lives a lesson. We tried to ban children. The court taught us to listen." They nailed it under the chalkboard, not as law, as history. Mr. Dankwa asked to say a last word he had not planned. "I grew up in a house where silence was the only safe furniture," he confessed. "I thought landlords must sell silence. You have taught me to sell predictability instead. That I can deliver. I will not pretend I love noise now. I will love the agreement about it." He turned to the twins. "Draw me a map of what your joy looks like at 5 p.m. and at 9 p.m. I will follow it." "Deal," said Kwesi, shaking the landlord's hand because children know diplomacy when it tastes like future. Akua drew 2 sons, one laughing at 5, one sleeping at 9 with a moon wearing earplugs labeled courtesy. They took a photo, not of faces, of the charter taped on the wall. Under it, signatures bloomed. Tenants, landlord, H2D2, neighbors, mango. Someone drew a leaf as signature. Hubcap. Someone traced its dent. No one posted the picture with a caption about humiliation. They wrote order dressed as kindness. Weeks frescoed into months. The charter did not solve everything, it shortened arguments. When a visiting cousin blasted a zonto at 11 p.m., the hubcap coughed and Selorm delivered a friendly charge sheet, Clause 2. When football drifted toward walls, Release Lion growled from the cartoon, and boys moved the posts without needing a meeting. When repairs lagged by a day, Receipt Ranger slipped a note into the box. A day later, bulbs shone like apologies that learned to be useful. The children's quiet library, not a punishment but a possibility, funded from a small fine when the landlord forgot his workshop, opened in the stairwell. Picture books, math sheets, a shelf of ear defenders, a basket of soft balls for rainy days. Nothing fancy. Everything considered. Sometimes, sitting on the listening bench, Na would feel the old heat of humiliation creep back, the night of the lockout, the moment her children's laughter had been weighed and found illegal. Then, Akua would bring a poem from the chalkboard. Apology is not a period. It is a comma that invites a better clause. They would laugh, and the comma would do its work. Near the year's end, Magistrate Aquele passed by with no robe, only her groceries, and a smile that tries not to be recognized. She stood at the gate and read the painted sign that used to be a wound. She nodded to the charter. She tapped the hubcap once the way one knocks politely on a well-kept door. "Carry on," she said, and the yard did. When news of the charter spread, other compounds sent delegations like villages sending sons to a new apprenticeship. Sankofa House hosted Saturday schools, how to write house rules, how to hold a listening bench, how to conduct an apology that cooks. Amma taught some, Selorm taught some, Auntie Ya taught the rest, broom as pointer, humor as chalk. Mr. Dankwa taught landlords a revolutionary sentence. I was wrong, and an even more revolutionary one. Here is what we will do about it. And the twins. They grew. Kwesi learned to keep ball under crossbar of courtesy. Aqua learned to teach younger children the alphabet of agreement. Their laughter learned volume control without learning fear. The story ends the way most good housing stories should, not with a move-out, with a staying. The sign at the gate now reads home in letters large enough for even tired men to see. The charter grows smudged, then is reprinted crisp, like vows renewed. The hubcap ages but refuses retirement, content to cough only when the yard forgets what it already knows. A tale, let it be told. The telling is finished. The courtesies will continue the work. If you reached here, leave your footprint for the hubcap. Like so, apologies stay practiced. Share with a landlord or tenant who needs a charter more than a quarrel, and comment your city +time so the next folktale knows where and when to knock.